to the live stream, I think. Let's check on that, shall we? Hi! Oh my gosh, thank you everyone who was waiting. Got a lot of Washingtonians here. Okay. Okay, looks like we're live. I just got a little... My phone actually notified me this time that I was going live, so thanks for that, phone. Hi, Evie. Hope you're having a good day. I am having a good day so far. I am very excited to be talking with you all today. What do you think of the steeds? What do you think of the look, the fit? I think it's the fit. That's what the kids are calling it these days. I've got this like sweater dress on because it was raining today, and so it's like, oh, it's a glorious like 15 degrees cooler than it was. I'm not like fully into fall mode yet. I will sap every last moment of summer that I get in this state because I know that from October until May I will not see the sun. So I'm going to just do my photosynthesis and enjoy it while it lasts. But yes. Hi everyone. How's the audio by the way? Can you hear me all right? Volume good? I'm trying to figure out where I want my microphone here. I don't know if I made that better or worse. TBH. TBH. I think, yeah, that should be good. In case I start screaming, which is not necessarily improbable during these streams. I just hate when the little like yellow thing is visible. That's my least favorite is when you can see the little yellow tab deal. I need to get another one. I've just been using this one because it's what I've had. But you know, working with what we got. Audio's fine. Good. Okay. I know we've had some problems with like my camera overheating, stuff like that. So fingers crossed that will not be something that happens today. But yeah. All right. Cool. So welcome everyone. Thank you for hanging out. Okay. YouTube said the bitrate was weird. It looks like it's fine now. Okay, I'm gonna assume it's fine. So hi, welcome. If you are new here, a couple things you need to know. It is an 18 plus only live stream, like it says right down there. So if you are not at least 18, please depart for now. You will be welcome back when you are 18. It is not because I think you are stupid or don't understand what you might be into, anything like that. It is for everyone's safety. My safety, your safety. Just, it's not a good idea to mix minors and adults and BDSM together at the same time. So that's why we got that rule in place. I do have some rules down below. We have an FAQ down below. You can find that all linked down. If you are watching the video, you're on YouTube, right? You just click open on a little description box and it'll have all the information in there. Key things to know is I do not give mental health advice. I am not a doctor. I am not a psychiatrist. I am not qualified to do that. I just ask also that if someone is asking a medical question in the chat, we don't perpetuate any kind of misinformation here. Help is good. Perpetuating misinformation is bad. Like, for example, a lot of people will say, hey, I was experiencing nerve damage like during a bondage scene. And some people will say, oh, you should ice it. And that is well-intended advice, but current recommendations do not say that you should ice on sites of potential nerve damage. That's not the current medical recommendation. So that is why I have that rule. We just want to make sure everyone is staying safe. And in general, also, please, if you want to share where you are from, that is okay. But do keep in mind that these live streams stay up for about 6 months or so. So your username and your location, if you share that, will be visible to other people after the stream is done. So, yes. Oh, thank you so much, Magnus. Just found your videos. New to DDLG, rock on. Okay, awesome. Well, we are going to be talking about brats today. That's actually a wonderful way for me to transition. We are going to be talking about bratting today. I thought this could be a subject we haven't really talked about for a long time, but is something that is very popular, very common, has lots of people with lots of very strong opinions and feelings about it and lots of questions. So I thought we could talk about that. And there definitely is overlap between Bratting and DDLG and Littles, but they are also different. So that is sort of the subject that I had in mind for today. But as always, these are interactive viewer Q&As. So if you do have a question that is about like a recent video, a totally different topic, anime, a different YouTube video you saw, whatever it is, you can ask about that as well. It doesn't have to be related to bratting, but I am kind of trying out this new thing where I have more topic prompts in the title of the stream just to sort of have something to go off of and let people know, hey, here's something maybe that we could be talking about today. So that is what is on the menu, but really it's whatever you guys decide is on the menu. I am just here to answer your questions. And if they are bratting related or BDSM or whatever else, I mean, bratting is obviously that's part of BDSM, but you know what I mean, like general BDSM. I will also say two more things. So I also answer my questions that I get in the order they go in the chat. So I just find that is the most fair way to do it. So if you ask a question and it's at the beginning, then I will get to it sooner than something that happens later. If I do not answer your question right away, please remember that. Do not spam the chat with like your question 3 times in a row, because if I do see that you are spamming the question, then I won't answer it because I don't want to reward that behavior, which I guess is sort of a little bit of a technique for bratting as well. If you want to, have something to put barriers around certain types of behavior in a relationship. Another little thing we get into there. And let's see, anything else we need to know? Oh, and yes, at the end of the stream, usually 10-15 minutes before I end everything, I do give people another opportunity to ask questions that maybe I missed or just last minute things, and then we will wrap up. So that is sort of the timeline of events. That is what's going on. And I think that's everything. So let me get into answering some questions. Gonna pop out the chat here. Welcome, James. Welcome, Cassie. Welcome, Jimmy. Welcome, Dolly Divine. Welcome, Soft Peaches. Welcome, Aged and Green. That makes me think of pickles, and I love it. Pickles are like, I love pickles. I love drinking pickle juice, and I think that makes me masochist. So fight me, why don't you? Welcome, Fairy Queen. Welcome, Samantha. Welcome, Victor. Welcome, Luna the Fox Girl. Welcome, Galittle. Welcome, Brittany. Welcome, Slug Princess. Love that name. Love Ginger Core. Love that one. So many good names. Okay, thank you all so much for waiting. I think, is it helpful when I do the live streams like a little bit earlier? So usually what I've been doing is I'm scheduling them like the same day as the stream, but I'm kind of experimenting with what time, because I feel like if it's too early, people might miss it. But if it's like too soon before, I don't know if it really does anything. But I think it helps people remember. We do live streams like this every Friday, 6 p.m. We missed a couple last month because I just had a lot of other life things happening, like obligation-wise I couldn't really get out of that involved me being away from my house. So live streaming did not happen. We're back. We're here to answer your questions. And by we, I mean me. And Bandit, I guess, if you want to ask Bandit a question. Who's my dog? She's on her bed, under the bed. No, she's just under my desk. Sorry, not under my bed. She does occasionally, very rarely go under the bed. It's not, she doesn't go there regularly. It's not her go-to. Love the makeup. Thank you. So I got a couple new things in the mail that I wanted to try out. I got the Ilia, not the foundation they have, but it's like a serum. And because they came up with a new color that looked like it was a shade match for me, and it's like the serum, super serum skin tone with SPF 40. And I love my foundation. I use the Urban Decay Hydromaniac foundation, and they marketed that as a tinted moisturizer, I think, but it's like totally a foundation. It's way too thick. You can't really apply it with your hands. And I wanted something that I could apply with my hands that like doesn't have a lot of like it doesn't transfer very much, because I'm like, well, if I'm going to a dungeon, right, and I'm on a spanking horse or I'm leaning into someone, I don't want to get my foundation all up on him. So I like this one because it's like, I want to have stuff I can use where I can literally just apply it with my fingers and just it be like really, really super quick and easy and like have a full look basically. I am really loving it. This is the Sky ST.5 color, so it's the lightest color they make. It looks really like too light when you put it on, but as you like rub it into your skin, it turns into its actual like natural color. I had tried the not Urban Decay, the MAC Face and Body, the new one they came out with, because they had, I think it was N0 was their new lightest color. And that one is still too dark for me. I can tell. Like if I look between my neck and my face, it's too dark. It doesn't work. And I was really disappointed because I really wanted to like that one, but this like Elia skin tint, super good stuff. I also finally got actual eye pencil. Like let me tell you guys, I have been using the same crappy Ulta gel pencil eyeliner for like 3 years at this point. It's a little nub. It's not good quality at all. Like it definitely transfers from my waterline to my other waterline. It transfers all over my face. And I finally, for my birthday, I got the Urban Decay, their famous like 24/7 like glide on pencil. Finally got that. I wanted to use it today, so I did. And yeah, the other thing I'm trying, I haven't gotten in the mail yet, but I'm super stoked for is the Laura Mercier Caviar eye pencils because they make a black one. And I'm like, okay, literally, if I can have something, if I can literally just have all of my eye products be in sticks and then my foundation just be something I can put on with my hands, like that's like a totally, completely portable, no brush, no anything makeup look, which makes it super easy to touch up in dungeons. It makes it super easy just for like life because I don't wear makeup every day. I pretty much wear makeup when I'm filming, and otherwise I try to focus on like skincare and sunscreen and like not doing my whole face. So yeah, anyways, that's the makeup corner for today. I know some of you always really want to know about like makeup and tutorials and things like that, and I do them occasionally when I live stream on Fridays. We will obviously, because that's today, right? I do sometimes do makeup looks on stream, and actually the first time I ever put on false eyelashes was on stream, and that moment changed my life. I'm not wearing false eyelashes right now, I'm just wearing mascara, but being able to do false eyelashes has like changed the game. Let me tell you, I have achieved all of my makeup related technique goals pretty much. Except for like I need to find a way to not have my hydromaniac. I get bunny lines, I guess is what they're called, because they crinkle my nose like this. Because I'll sit there and I'll edit and I'll be like, I don't like that. And so I do that with my nose, and so I get little lines right here on the bridge of my nose, and I need to find a way to not make just keep those from happening. That's all I need to do. If I can figure that out, my makeup goals will be complete, basically. So yeah, that's the makeup corner. Thanks for attending. I hope you all liked it. And the lipstick I'm wearing is from Black Moon Cosmetics. It's their gray color. I really like it. I like black too, but I find black is very unforgiving when you apply it. And the black that I have used, I don't think I'm going to use it again. It's from Nabla Cosmetics, and it transfers. Like I filmed a whole video, and I think I took a sip of water like this, and then somehow I got like a black mark on my forehead from the lipstick, and I was like, oh no, I can't do this. I'll probably wear it for like events and things like that, but I don't think I'm going to wear it on camera just because it does transfer, and that's disappointing. Very disappointing. Oh, that's awesome, Fairy Queen. Your tickling video made me feel super secure about a kink I used to be super insecure about. Thank you so much for an amazing video about it. You are so welcome. That is why I do those videos. I like to focus, I think, more on sort of obscure, like lesser known kinks, because I know that a lot of people, whether it be tickling fetishes, foot fetishes, ABDL, what have you, a lot of people, even in the kink world, are not really accepted for having those interests. And I feel like the more awareness and understanding people have, not only does that help individuals feel more comfortable with themselves, I feel like it makes it easier for other people in the kink world to look at other people at play parties or in conversations and be more understanding and less judgmental. And if I can do that for like 10 people, then I've done my job and I'm super happy about that. So thank you for sharing. I like your collar. Where did you get them? Well, I'm only wearing the one, but I got it from the Kitten Collection. I have a video on my channel where I reviewed them. They are on Etsy. I have been buying stuff from them for like 5 years at this point. Really, really good quality. The gal that runs the shop is super, super sweet. I would definitely recommend them. And this is also made out of biothane. So it is both a vegan material and looks like leather, and you can get it wet. So if you are into wet and messy play, you like to do stuff in the shower, you have a bathtub, all of that works, and you can still wear this collar at the same time, which is awesome. Bratting has been getting me in trouble all day. I can barely sit. That is a heck of a way to start your Friday or end your Friday, I suppose. Simply Kanisha, that's awesome. Super off topic, but since some people in the BDSM community like leather and working with leather, anyone know how to clean leather properly after burning it? Uh, Burning it. Okay, that is gonna have to be, if somebody here is a leather worker, you're gonna have to answer that, because I can't imagine a scenario in which you would both burn leather and like be able to use it enough afterwards to then clean it, you know? Very interesting. Would be being extremely submissive plus not always listening and challenging the rules count as being a brat? Short answer, yes, but it depends on what you personally choose to identify with. I think sort of the simplest way to define what bratting is it is basically actually I don't know really, like, I mean, I had to think about sort of like a concise definition for it because it can mean so many different things, but I think at the end of the day what being a brat is about sort of giving rebellious energy to your partner, I suppose. Because bratting can mean like mocking your partner's voice and sticking your tongue out and running around the house in order to get a spanking. It could be defying rules. It could be about challenging the rules. It could be about drink play, like fighting back and saying no and calling your partner a stinky head. Like, you know, it can take on a lot of different forms. But ultimately, I think it's about that sort of rebellious spirit and sort of wanting to provide resistance to then be overcome, basically. Like, I think if you are bratting but the intention is ultimately to like win and ultimately to like get the power, like that's not really bratting. Like bratting in my mind is like you do ultimately have that like submissive energy there, but the way that you express it is maybe a little bit unconventional, a little bit less direct, and you want to have that sort of contest where you're sort of challenging your partner to, and this is a very frequent thing I say, is it's about like wanting to find almost the like fence lines in the relationship. Like you want to be able to see, okay, if I push my partner here, are they going to be dominant enough? Are they invested enough to push back at me and remind me of where my place is? And having that constant reassurance can be something that is really fulfilling, and not just necessarily about reassurance. It can also just be about enjoying being overwhelmed. It can be about sort of mentally having a particular framework that works for you with dealing with pain. So maybe having that narrative framework of like, I talked back, I did something wrong, I broke a rule, and now I'm receiving pain as like a masochist. Maybe that's like a narrative that works for you for what you want from your BDSM. And maybe having something where it doesn't have that like reason behind it is a little bit less interesting for you. But totally depends on the person, right? Totally, totally depends. Okay, good question. Okay, two good questions. Actually, we got one here from Adam. How do you punish a brat when you know they like to be punished? Okay, this is a classic question. I'm going to turn this way so I can just face the audience a little bit better here. I feel like this is more direct somehow. It feels more personal this way. So, how do you punish a brat when you know they like to be punished? Again, classic question. I have many videos where I have talked about this. I have one that is actually fairly recent, which I believe is called non-physical punishments or like physical punishment alternatives. You can look that up if you want to have a ton of ideas. It's a really long video and explains tons of things in detail. It's not just for brats, but bratting and brats are like one category of people that do BDSM that video is for. But people think that punishment means like physical pain. Like they think punishment is like, oh, I have to cane them, I have to spank them, I have to do whatever. And if a brat is masochist and they enjoy that kind of stimulus, then you're not actually like teaching them something. So I think you have to have a conversation about like what your brat wants from their bratting, because it can go in like two directions, right? If you want to punish them, there's like actual punishment, which is like reinforcing a boundary after a broken rule and like reaffirming like, hey, like you need to actually obey this, and I am teaching you a lesson that like you are supposed to not do this again in the future. Or you could have a punishment, which is like a fake punishment or a fun punishment where it's like a punishment. It's not really meant to teach a lesson or be constructive to a power dynamic in the direct way that the last example is. It's about, again, that narrative framework. It's a role play. It's about just having a particular tool to get that masochist side fed. And so you both kind of understand you're not really punishing them. They do actually like it. They are getting what they want, but you both know that and are okay with that. If what you actually want to do is the first thing, and what, agreeing, you have to be in alignment on these things, and you have to know where you are at and where your partner is at, because if you want one thing and your partner wants the other thing, then the scenes are going to be really confusing and neither one of you are going to ultimately end up being fulfilled. So you got to be very clear about like, this is why I don't like calling both things punishment. This is why I like saying punishment and punishment, or punishment and play or something, just to make it really, really clear. Like, you are going down a certain pathway with your intentions and your partner knows where you're going and they can communicate more concisely. Okay, when I say punishment, I mean like really punish and not like for funsies. I want to actually, stuff. And also part of that as well is like, if your brat thinks that like all rules are fair game and they can just play around with any rules, so you do have to also negotiate that. Like if your brat is the type of brat where what they like to do is push at the rules, right? And they like to break rules, you kind of almost have, like, I sort of think about it like you have to have like an outer like weaker fence of like playable rules, which are sort of like things the brat is like allowed to mess with, and then you have like an inner core like set of stronger rules that are meant to be respected and should be obeyed. So you might have like an inner core rule that's like, you will always treat the dominant with respect, right? If they do things that are like directly disrespectful to you, like, I don't know, making fun of your ability at work, for example, like something that's just like outright very rude, like that is violating the inner boundary. That's not bratting at that point. That's like being a mean partner. Like that's not actually playing. That's like, don't mess with this stuff. And whereas the outer rules maybe would be things like, you have to take a picture for me every day, you have to drink 8 glasses of water, you have to floss your teeth twice a day, etc., etc., etc. Those things are not necessarily very personal. They're not necessarily, depends on the person, right, and what they want from BDSM. They're not necessarily as like emotionally important. And so you can play around with those outer rules and be clear that like, hey, these things can be messed with, these things cannot. And so they know what they can push against and get what they want, versus like push against and then like that threatens the ending of the relationship. Like that would cause like real destruction. So you have to be like, bratting isn't something you can just like stumble into. And I think that's where a lot of people make mistakes when it comes to bratting and being a brat and having a brat as a partner, is because this is a very naturalistic style for a lot of people. A lot of people that get into BDSM, like the first thing they do is like they're a brat, that's their thing. But it takes a lot of work to do it well. It takes a lot, like even more negotiation, I think, to do than maybe a more like standard submissive, where there's not all of this like subliminal like rules that are okay to mess with versus rules that are not, punishment versus punishment. Like there's not all of these more subtle things going on. It's just like, it is what it is. And so it takes a lot more work, even though it's something that a lot of like newer people are really drawn to. And you have to be very concise with what you're talking about and really, really, really particular in a way that I don't really think is necessarily compatible with sort of like an organic, natural relationship all the time, because it is so easy to push too far and not understand why that one was pushing too far, but the thing you did last week was okay, if you don't ever talk about any of this stuff. But to get back to the actual like real question at hand here, which is how do you punish a brat if you know they like being punished? And if you mean punishment, again, that first sense that I talked about, which is like actually wanting to reinforce the rules and structure, the way that you do that is you do punishment they don't like. And if you are limiting yourself to like physical traditional punishment that basically looks like consensual BDSM play in the sense of like spanking, caning, paddling, etc., if a masochist likes that, you're not teaching them any lesson other than do it again, because you're going to get caned again, you're going to get spanked again, whatever. And so you have to expand your definition of like what includes punishment. And for me, the easiest thing to go to is to go to non-physical punishments, because those are less likely to be as directly enjoyed as some of the other things that maybe we're using before. And this is really only limited by your creativity and the limits of your partner. So you can get as silly as you want, you can get as fucked up as you want. I think some of the classic examples that a lot of people gravitate towards would be writing lines, writing an apology letter, being put in timeout, removal of privileges like phone usage or going on FetLife or Twitter, for example. And if you have a partner where your dynamic is like bratting and something else, like they're a brat and a little, and they're a brat and a pet, for example, then those punishments can also be like flavored to reinforce that role play as well. Because if you have somebody who's a brat and a little getting punished by removal of like internet privileges, is also going to be reinforcing your like daddy little dynamic, your mommy little dynamic, maybe compared to something that's more adult, right? So those are some examples of things you can do, but really the simplest way of answering this is just to say you punish them by figuring out what is not physically rewarding for them, but what is still in their limits. And it can be like all kinds of crazy stuff too. It could be like having to hold your hands in like a bucket of ice water. It could be having to like hold an onion in their mouth, or like cut an entire bag of onions. Like, you know, there's tons of stuff you can do that is something you can monitor them doing, which has like a concrete beginning and a concrete end in the same way that like a scene does. But it's not necessarily like, oh my God, I keep spanking you and you keep doing the things I don't want you to do. I have no more resources to solve this problem. Like there's so many things at your disposal that are not just, you know, the spanking, and then, oh, the spanking doesn't work. Oh, well, we got to give up. BDSM doesn't work for me. Bye. Got to be creative. If I had to pick like one skill, one valuable trait in the top that I think people underestimate having or how important it is creativity. Because I see so many people that get stuck in ruts for scenes, for rules, for punishment ideas, for literally anything. And they're like, what do I do? And if you can be creative and you can be like thoughtful, like and incorporate what your partner wants, what their interests are, what your role play dynamics are, that really, really, really makes for a solid relationship. I will also say really quickly, if you want to make sure I answer your question, I know we're already like really into things right now, but if you want to make sure I answer your question, the best way that you can do that is look down below. There are super chats. There are also a link to Streamlabs. And if you donate either on Streamlabs or on Super Chat, I will answer your question like right away. You get to like skip the line if I do that, and I'll see your question right away. But if you do not do Super Chat, then I cannot promise that I will get to your question. So that is just to make sure, you know, we're kind of treating things as like fairly as possible, basically. Okay, what do we got next? What's going on? Oh, yeah, we got a really good question here from Peachy Chiba. A question I have, I naturally brat, but when I am called a brat, it makes me feel shame, guilt, and sadness. How can I avoid this and still brat, and is this normal? Is it normal? And I'm going to substitute the word normal for, is this the average experience of someone who is a brat? I would say that I don't necessarily think it's like the average experience, but I would say it is something that is common. I would say, I don't know, maybe 20% of people that brat have some sort of guilt or shame or sadness because depending on what part of the community you're in, there are a lot of stereotypes around bratting. There are a lot of very negative feelings about bratting. A lot of people think, brats aren't real submissives, brats destroy relationships, brats are topping from the bottom. Like, name a bad thing you could say about a submissive to implicate they're not a real submissive, and like people will say that about brats. So I understand why someone would feel guilt or shame or sadness about that label. And I think as well, sort of even outside of that in vanilla culture, we do to some extent in varying cultures place a value on obedience and following the rules. And if you were to call someone a brat, for example, generally that is meant as an insult. It's like, oh my god, she's so bratty. Oh my god, she's so bossy. Like, it's meant as an insult. It's meant as something that's like pointing out a negative like character trait about someone. And so of course that can make us attach those shameful feelings towards our identity. So I think the clearest thing to do if the problem is like you don't want to be called a brat is to call it something else. You can do the same thing and call it something else, and it's totally fine, right? Like, if I use this example where like I don't like being called girl. I don't like being called baby girl, anything like that. No, no, no. It's not a gender thing. It's not a gender identity, dysphoria, whatever. It's nothing like that. It's just like I don't like those words. I hear them and I go, oh, no, not me. Not for me. And so I prefer to be called other things, right? I prefer, I'm not going to give examples, I guess, but I like to be called other things besides that. And I would say similarly, even if you are technically bratting in what we would call bratting as the activity, you don't have to be called that by your partner if that's not something you're into, right? You could say that you're sassy. You could say that you're silly. You could say that you're rebellious. You could say that you're a rebel, right? You could say that you're a princess, right? Depending on what you want, you can call a lot of different things. You can find a different label that works for you that still describes what it is that you're doing accurately so you and your partner are on the same page about things. So that's for like my temporary, like immediate solution is to just find a different word while still having the same meaning and making sure that you and your partner is like, no, that's like what's going on. Long term, obviously, I think being comfortable with the word brat would be the ideal solution, is finding how to be okay with that. And I think, that is in a lot of ways a function of time. And I think the more often that we do BDSM, the longer we have our relationships, the more consistent we are, the more secure we get in ourselves and in our kinks and what we want to do. And that over time will also dissipate some of the shame, the guilt, and maybe some of the sadness that you feel about bratting. But I think it's also worth, a process of introspection as always. I definitely recommend this because, we sort of gone through this point where you're like, okay, the word brat like makes me feel these feelings, and then diving deeper into that and sort of identifying like, what are those feelings connected to? Like, why is sadness like a term that comes up related to bratting? Is shame or guilt? Like, is there a memory associated with that? Is there a different time in your life that's associated with that? Is there a fear that's associated with that that makes you feel guilty? And identifying those things and having introspection around that can be really helpful for finding what pathway will work for unpacking those feelings and allowing yourself to be called that word without having those negative things attached to it. So that would be my general advice about it. Any follow-up questions, any additional information you'd like to share, please feel free. And we will get on to the next question. Glad you can make it, Naomi. I know the live streams are always at 6. I know that time is not perfect for everyone, but I'm so glad you could make it. I did actually already say where I got my collar, so I'm not going to answer that one again. But I do have a review for it on my channel if you want to look it up. Pickle juice sounds like a weird drink, but then again, I like to enjoy drinking gravy in a mug. So, I mean, I don't buy pickles to drink the juice, but it is a nice bonus. That is what I will say. It's a nice bonus. Very important BDSM question. Favorite black lipstick, bonus points for liquid lipstick. I have been in the quest for my favorite black liquid lipstick for a while. The one that I think I mentioned this before, I have tried the Nabla Cosmetics one, which you can get at Ulta. That one I do like the color of because it's not like a blue black, it's like a black black. But it does transfer a little bit on me, on my lips. I would say of all of the ones that I have tried so far, in terms of a brand, I really like all of my Black Moon Cosmetics lipsticks. I know they make a black. It has been out of stock for a super super long time, so I'm waiting to get that. But so far, I pretty much only use liquid lipsticks. I'm guess I'm just stuck in 2016 or whatever. I guess I know I'm not that adventurous with my lip colors, but yeah, unfortunately, I don't have really. I have tried the Lime Crime one. I wasn't really into that one. I tried the ColourPop one. That one. A lot of them. The problem is a lot of like black liquid lipsticks are actually like really dark, dark, dark blue and have like a blue sort of shift like finish to them. Which, if you like blue and black together, is fine. But I find that very like I'm wearing this for example because this gray. These grays are a little bit more slightly like neutral to warm. I think they're more just neutral. And I find that things that are really, really cool toned, especially like blues, generally do not look very good on me. So I tend to stay away from them. But yeah, hopefully that helped you in your liquid lipstick search. Would you consider doing a video on latex and PVC? There are many good videos out there. Latex and PVC, I wouldn't do a video on them together because they are very different. Like people that are into latex like aren't into PVC. Like if you're a latex fetishist, like you probably aren't into PVC because they're very different materials and they have very different finishes, feels, fit, constructed differently, etc., etc. But I do have a video on latex, so that is already out there. And like PVC isn't really like a fetish, so I don't think I would really do a video on it, you know. But I do have a video on latex. Thank you for this informative video. As a young man, I'm not gonna finish reading that. No, you do not. I am not your mistress. Thank you. Oh, I guess that's true. That's a good point. So speaking of makeup and like finger makeup, also for littles that enjoy finger painting, makeup that allows for brush-free application can elicit the sense of finger painting their face. Oh, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. That's great. Great suggestion. I was actually just thinking earlier today, I was doing a Patreon phone call with someone, and I just remembered this idea of this craft project where you melt down like broken old crayons in a pot and you melt them and then you re-pour them into molds, like you pour them into like cookie cutter molds. So you have just like one really big crayon. And I was like, oh, that would be a great little activity. That would be amazing because you get to melt them and all the colors. You get to pick out your own shapes. Like, ah, that would be such a good idea. That sounds amazing. Is dark slash black colors a mainstay for says dooms? I'm assuming they meant doms. I think black is kind of like associated, like black and red is kind of the BDSM colors. That's kind of what we gravitate towards, but it doesn't like I'm not a dom. I like wearing black because I like wearing black. It's totally independent of my BDSM stuff. Like I just happen to like black. That's just me. Oh, thank you so much, Slug Princess. Not new to the scene now, but when I was, your channel was and still is an amazing source of info for me and really helped me navigate everything. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Thank you, Slug Princess. Is this about makeup tonight? No, first timer. It is not. I just happened to talk about makeup for 5 minutes because people always ask me about it. But no, we're talking about Bratting today. But occasionally we do also talk about other things. We are here for a diverse live stream experience. Is there etiquette? Okay, I feel like, did I miss a question? I feel like I skipped over a question. I want to make sure I didn't miss somebody. Okay, no, I didn't. I thought I did for some reason. Oh, Actually, on that topic, I have a leather jacket, but I'm kind of uncomfy wearing it because I don't know how to clean it. I've worn it out to places with COVID-19 cases. How do you disinfect it? The answer is you can't disinfect leather. A lot of people ask this, and I'm sorry, it's like it's a porous material, it's a natural fiber. You can't sanitize it. I'm sorry. That's just, that's how it is. It's not silicone. Like, you can't bleach it. You can't do anything. You can't autoclave it. The only recommendation that I have I mean, you can't, like, so you can clean it, right? You can clean leather. You cannot disinfect it. That is, you cannot make it 100% virus free. Because basically anything that you do to it that involves like disinfecting agents, like would potentially damage the leather. And especially if it's a leather jacket, like, are you gonna want to wear it? Like, and also if it's a toy, like, you can't really use it on other people because then it's like damaged. So the only way that I've ever heard that you can potentially disinfect a leather object, and you're not even necessarily fully disinfecting it, you're just like making it so it's very unlikely that anything like would be virally significant, would basically you leave it in the sunlight for like a month. You don't wear it, you don't touch it, you don't do anything, you just leave it in the sunlight for a month. And after that, basically anything that could be potentially infectious like should have died off, more or less. But otherwise, there's like no products you can use on leather. And like I've looked at studies for this. I don't know if Whistler is here today or not, but like we've talked about this before. Like there's no technique that you can do that disinfects leather that maintains the integrity of leather as fiber, as clothing, as whatever. Like if you do anything to it that could disinfect it, you're gonna basically destroy it essentially. So if you're worried about probably not the best time to be wearing your leather kit out everywhere, because it's, you can't put in the washing machine with like, a disinfectant, laundry detergent or whatever. So probably keep the leathers away for now. That's probably something that's good to do. But yeah, there's not, whether it be toys, jackets, anything, there is no way to 100% disinfect it without destroying it. So that's what happens when you use that kind of material, Is there etiquette you recommend for first time going to a dungeon? Also safety tips. I have a video that is exactly about this question. It's going to be out in like 2 weeks. So I could answer this, but what you're really asking me takes like a 40-minute long answer, because there is so much to go over. There's so much to go over in terms of like meeting people, finding events, how do you talk to people, how do you keep yourself safe, what does keeping yourself safe look like, what do you do if you get into a bad situation, how do you vet people. Like there's so many things that go into that answer that I can't really concisely get to that in a live stream, but there will be a video where I talk about an answer to that in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, I do have a quite old video that I believe is BDSM 101 Staying Safe. So if you haven't watched that, it's definitely an older video. Look for it on my channel. It's also my BDSM 101 playlist. But basically, follow the rules. Like, that's the thing. Follow the rules. If if it's any kind of worthwhile dungeon, they have rules, they have protocol guidelines. Read them again, follow them, love them, live them. That is how you will have a good time. If you don't know what to do, if you're confused about something, message the people that are organizing the event, send them an email, give them a phone call, whatever options you have for that. Ask them all the questions you have about like, what should I wear? How do I talk to people? They will know how their local community operates. And that's really key, right? Because I can give you general advice. I can guess. But every venue, every party, every event organizer has their own standards, has their own preferences. So I don't know, maybe you go to a dungeon where the first hour is a social evening only and no play, and you meet people and it's very casual, and then you do the BDSM. Or maybe it's like hardcore BDSM all the time. Maybe they have really, really strict clothing guidelines. Maybe you need to be vetted before you can go there. Like, it all totally depends on the individual place that you are going to. So the number one thing you can do is read the fucking rules. If you can't find them, message the people, email them, ask for them, know what you're getting into before you get there, and that will really, really help you. And the number one general safety thing I can tell you is, like, don't play the first time you go to a dungeon. Like, That's it. Like that's how do you keep yourself safe going to a dungeon for the first time? Don't play when you go there. I feel like your first time going to a dungeon, especially ever, should be like go there, meet people, talk to people, get to know the lay of the land, feel the vibe, see if you feel safe there, and then later you can decide to play or not. And that would be the safest thing that I can do. But again, like a full answer to this is like 40 minutes. There's so much I could tell you to do. And there's a lot that needs to be learned there. But again, I have like so many videos talking about negotiations, red flags, finding events, all of that I've covered in many, many other videos. So you'll have to look for those, unfortunately. I used to think I was a brat until I saw other brats in action. The continued challenging of rules genuinely scares me. I mean, I think there's like degrees of bratting. I don't think everyone's bratting has to be the same way. I think, for some people, the key part of bratting is that continually challenging the rules, constantly poking buttons, constantly getting that attention. And for other people, it's very occasional. Like it's only in scenes once a week. Like it just suddenly, like some people have a brat that's on like all the time, 24/7. Other people have a brat. And by having a brat, I mean like having a brat in your brain. Like you as a submissive having your brat side out. And for other people, their brat is out like not 24/7, but is out like it pops out like once a week, a couple times a month, whatever. It's not constantly. So there's a spectrum, but I think the stereotype is definitely that if you're a brat, you're literally bratting constantly all the time as much as possible. And I feel like some of that is like competitive. Like I don't think it's something where people are doing that because, well, I should be careful here. I feel like there may be some people that brat, especially in public, in a performative way, um, as a way of getting attention also from the audience, even if they don't like genuinely mean it. I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah, I think that sometimes bratting can be performative also. It doesn't necessarily mean they want to get in trouble all the time, but because they know that people are watching them and they have an audience, they like dial it up to 11, But bratting doesn't have to be that intense. It doesn't have to be all the time, Just like any other type of power exchange, any other type of role play, it all exists from a spectrum of like once a year to 24/7 and anywhere in between. Difference between bratting and pranking. I think there is overlap. I think some brats use pranks as part of their brat toolkit, but I feel like bratting is more of a consistent thing where like your desired outcome is to like get attention. Like you are bratting because you want attention, you want punishment, you want punishment, you want to be reassured of the boundaries of your relationship, fill in motivation here. Whereas like pranking is about like the prank being fun and like laughing and doing something funny. And I just feel like the motivations are very different and then the outcomes from it are also different. Is there some overlap between primal prey and bratty sub? Let me think about that. I mean, I think sort of short answer is yes, maybe. I wouldn't say that that is the case for like all bratty subs or all like primal prey. But I think with anything in BDSM, like you can do anything in any combination you want. You can be a brat and a little. You can be a brat and a pet. You can be a brat and a service sub. You can be a brat and a slave. You can be a brat and a and a prey animal. You can be a brat and a prey animal and a little. Like, you can do anything in any combination you want to. It's just again your imagination and what you find motivating, and also like you can go between them as well. You can have multiple dynamics at the same time. But yeah, I think there could be an overlap, but certainly not in all cases, but maybe for some. Yes, good point, Autumn. As a brat, ignore us, ultimate punishment. True, 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 true. You have to use that one very carefully, though. Like, if you're actually gonna ignore your partner, that can be like hardcore like trauma memory stuff. So be careful, but when used thoughtfully, it is very effective. I feel like there was a part 1 to this question that maybe I missed. If I'm missing, if I'm missing something, it feels like this is like halfway through a thought. If it's not, I apologize. If I need more context, let me know. But basically, it's like it's difficult dating because Caroline didn't know if he's distancing himself to see how I react or if he doesn't like me. Okay, here's my advice. If anybody is like doing the like hard to get thing where they like ignore you on purpose to like test you, don't waste your time. Like honestly, like either they don't like you enough to pay attention to you and they are also too cowardly to tell you to your face that they don't like you as much as you like them, or they are trying to manipulate you and do some fucking pickup artist type bullshit where they're like, oh, if you ignore her a little bit, she'll like cling to you more strongly. Don't do that either. Just like be like, okay, bye. I don't need you. I see you're not paying attention to me, and I deserve someone that will actually give me the time of day. So bye. Like that's my advice. Don't waste your time on people that don't respect you and are not willing to give what you are willing to give in a potential relationship. Oh, honey, a little sneeze. I know, honey. You're so pretty and so beautiful. I see a little tail going. Are you sleepy, honey? Are you sleepy, girl? All right, dog talk. Uh, as a young sub, how can I get an older woman to be interested in me so that I can be her personal slave? That took a dramatic turn at the end there. My advice is do not treat older women like fetish dispensary machines, so that way you can act out your fantasy of being a slave. That's my advice. It is if you want to know how to get somebody's attention, like be a good person, be involved in your community, volunteer your time, show up for social events, show that you are more than just somebody that is looking to get their fetish needs met. Because I will tell you from all of the various friends I have that are pro doms, that are female doms, that play with male partners, like they get nothing but messages all day, every day that are like from these 18-year-old boys that are like, excuse me, please, dear mistress, all I want is to worship your feet and allow you to trample on me, please. Dear mistress, I would do anything to be your personal slave. And like, they don't actually treat the woman as like a woman. They treat them as a way to get their fetish fantasies met, and that is a really, really good way to just automatically get a no and be like blocked forever. So be respectful. Generally, in any case, I don't recommend approaching people with like this mentality of like, I need to find someone to be my master. I need to find someone to be my daddy. I think the best outcomes come from not necessarily having sort of a particular interest in one outcome over another. It's just like, I want to meet people, I want to get to know my community, and then like through that you will meet people that you are going to be compatible with. But if you're looking like so far ahead into the future that you're really, really wanting one particular outcome from one very specific type of person, like you're going to ultimately end up being more disappointed in the long run, I think, more so than anything else. Not related to beating, but a question nonetheless. If you have a pleasure dom, so I'm gonna go ahead and say pleasure dom means like service top, who gets off, and okay, I'm gonna read this in my head first, and I'm gonna try and rephrase it in a way that makes sense, and then let me know if I've like interpreted this wrong. Until you're ready. Oh, Bratting. Okay. Okay. Um. Oh, is this like a sex question? I'm sorry. Now I'm reading this again. I realize this is probably like a sex question because you're asking about like if you're super sensitive sensation wise, anyways, to decrease sensitivity. Um, layers of clothing between you and the sensation. Generally, like getting off like more frequently will like decrease your sensitivity. I really don't recommend using numbing gels because those are not always the safest thing to use. But yeah, I think generally Like having barriers between you and the sensation can decrease how intense the sensation is. And then just like if you do stuff more often, you're gonna have less sensitivity. That's just like how it generally works. But I'm asexual, so if you're asking me a sex question, I'm like not the best person to ask. Not really my realm of BDSM, unfortunately. Not really a thing that I do, but I'm sure other people in the chat have their own ideas. Really appreciating the discussion of tiers of rules and in-depth negotiation. I've seen some DOMs talking about the capacity of brat behavior to really hurt. So this is super valuable. Yeah, I'm glad you appreciate it, James. Oh, thank you, Steve. Do you have any recommendations when it comes to discovering orientation? Okay, do you mean like sexual orientation or do you mean like in BDSM, like dom, top, sub, switch? Because I realize maybe you could mean one or the other, or do you mean like both? Both. Okay. Okay. I found that for me, like honestly, I think like taking quizzes sometimes online can be helpful. And the okay, I guess all the cool kids are skateboarding outside right now. Like, what's going on? Maybe it's not skateboarding. It sounds like a skateboard. I can't really see. What are you people doing? Why are you so loud? You're interrupting my thought patterns. Okay, I think they're gone. I think I can. Okay, so I found that for me, like taking quizzes was helpful, and the reason why they were helpful is it good quizzes are like an introspection prompt. Like they are a really good way to find out for yourself how you think about things and ask yourself questions that maybe you wouldn't have asked yourself before. So, like for BDSM, that would be like the BDSMtest.org. I don't know any that are for like orientation necessarily, but I am sure that they are out there. But it's complicated. I think if you're not used to having a dialogue with yourself about your own feelings and your own desires, like it's, that is going to be the first step in that pathway is like figuring out how to more strongly identify your feelings and like reflect on your thoughts about stuff. I would also say like watching uh, different mediums can be good as well, like watching like films that feature like lesbian relationships or gay relationships, for example. Watching YouTubers to talk about like their bisexuality or their BDSM relationships or their polyamory. Those can all be really good things as well if you hear them like talk about how they discovered their orientation or how they found that relationship. Then I think if you can identify with those thoughts and feelings, and that, or if you don't at all, like that can be a really good way as well, sort of to better understand your own experience of your orientation. But for BDSM, I think, more so than with sexual orientation, I think the BDSM is something that is you can kind of have like sort of an initial idea of like, okay, I think I might be into this or this, but the more that you try things, discover stuff, find partners, watch people do things, learn about stuff, your tastes are going to change, your preferences will change. What is your favorite thing? What you thought you would really like before you did anything? All of that is going to change the more that you are just around BDSM in general. And so you might start out thinking that you are a masochist bottom that really isn't into power exchange and has no interest in topping. But then, like 2 years into it, when you've done a lot more, you're more of like a rope bonded. What are they? I sincerely have no idea what's going on over there. Um, I cannot. I'm assuming it's some kind of cart, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if people are moving. I guess it is Friday night. I don't know if people move on Friday nights. Is that a thing? Um, but yeah, I think with BDSM, it can definitely be a lot more about just like exposure and trying things. And so again, like I was saying, at the beginning, you may think you're one thing, and then 2 years later, you're like a rope switch that's in like a DS dynamic and doing something totally different. So, I think just being open to experiences is like the key part of finding out whatever your true orientation is if you go, I think, in too strongly with a set idea about like, I think I'm this, but I'm just looking to confirm it. That can't, with BDSM, that can kind of close you off from a lot of the actual like possibilities that are out there. I hope that helped answer your question. Please let me know if it did, Steve. Thank you so much. I'm a daddy because my brat calls me daddy and wants to be my little girl. Using those terms, am I in a DDLG? I would hope that you would never find yourself in a DDLG relationship by accident. But I think that if you are a daddy and they are a little, and those are the terms that you use, then I think technically you could say that you are in a DDLG relationship in the broadest sense possible. But if like I feel like daddy is like there are so many ways to use the term daddy. I feel like what they probably want without saying it is they want a DDLG relationship and they are pushing you in that direction, but aren't actually saying directly that that's what they want, which is like kind of a problem. So if you are confused about if you are in a DDLG relationship, I think it seems like you would need to have a conversation with your partner directly where you say, hey, are we in a DDLG relationship? What does that mean? What do you want from me? If we're not, what are we doing? Why do you like to call me daddy? Like those are all things that are worth talking about. And then if you can't have a conversation about that, if they're like too embarrassed, then like you're not ready to do the thing, then I think in that case. But I think that like you have to want to be a daddy in order to be a daddy. I think it's one thing to be like okay with your partner calling you a certain word because that's what they like, but it's a different thing to like be a daddy, because like you wanting to be a daddy, actually, I haven't made a video on like what it means to be a daddy. I should probably do that, but I feel like being a daddy, because it can mean so many things, right? Like I think sort of the stereotype of it is like being the sort of paternal figure, caregiver. You can be really strict and sort of a disciplinarian. You can be authoritarian. You can be very like passive and, have your little girl has you wrapped around her finger. Like, there's lots of methods under which you can be a daddy. But I think the stereotype at its most base level is a daddy is a dominant type of person, generally speaking. Although the term daddy is used differently in like leather dyke spaces and in the lesbian community. So for this definition, assume I am just talking about heterosexual DDLG with a D-type daddy, because there are differences, there are variations. But being a daddy dom is like being a dominant person that takes on a paternal, like caregiver type role, generally, in the most basic sense. And if you are not drawn towards that, if you don't want that, then like you're not a daddy. You're just like somebody that gets called daddy in the bedroom, And those are different things, which is fine. It's fine either way. But if you and your partner are on different pages and they're trying to like, I find this happens a lot. I don't know why this happens in like DDLG in particular. I think people are just like kind of scared of being vulnerable and they don't want to talk about it. But I find that especially people that are brand new to BDSM, that have never done it before, that are in an otherwise vanilla relationship that they then want to make into a BDSM relationship, they sneak in the role play and the terms like kind of through the back door, even if they really want something else, because they don't know how to introduce it directly and like have those hard conversations. And I see that happen in DDLG more than I see it happen anywhere else. Right? We got a car honking. If we could just add a fire truck going by, we would have the trifecta of outdoor noises interrupting my live stream. Valentina asked, I think you've already talked about this, but is it possible to be the dominant in the relationship and also be the one bottoming? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I actually know somebody Not really, really well, but somebody that's sort of in my general like kinky friend group who identifies as a female dominant, but they also bottom like as a masochist to some of their partners. And they are like dominant otherwise. So you can be like a dominant who bottoms like two different people. You can also be a dominant that is a bottom in the same time. Because what a bottom is, in a kink sense, is somebody that is receiving the play, somebody that is receiving the sensation. And you can do that as a submissive. You can also do that as a dominant. If you give your partner a flogger and order them to whip you, and if they don't whip you, or I guess it's flog you because they're using a flogger, but if you give your partner a flogger and you order them to flog you, and if they don't do it good enough, you will do it 2 times harder to them, then that I think would be being dominant and being a bottom at the same time, as an example. But yeah, you can have it be where you are the one that is receiving the power in the relationship and then also receiving the sensations or receiving the pain. If that's what you want to do, that relationship is more uncommon, it is more unconventional, but absolutely you can do things like that. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there are probably like some people would be opposed to that. Like some people would be like, "Oh, you can't do both. If you're doing that, you're just really topping from the bottom." Blah blah blah. Definitely, people will have negative. Not everyone will be like accepting of it, but it is still a thing, regardless of like what some fuddy duddy on FetLife thinks is okay. I guess I would ask if the bratting behavior is getting in the way of the relationship's growth. Yeah, I think that's really the key question you have to ask, like whenever you're thinking about bratting, is I think having regular check ins is really important in any relationship. I think that if you are doing really high level power exchange, it's really, really important. And if you are doing bratting, it's like really, really important because with bratting, there can be that gray area where, like, is this okay to actually mess with this or like did I go too far? Actually, you know what it reminds me of in a lot of ways? It reminds me of humiliation. I took a class from Midori a couple of years ago on humiliation, and sort of, you remember the fence example I gave earlier where I talked about you have to have like sort of a weaker outer fence of like rules that are okay to mess with, and then like inner core rules that like you shouldn't be mess with or they like could ruin the relationship. It's a very similar principle when it comes to humiliation, where when you are doing humiliation, when you're trying to set up a scene or negotiate a relationship that involves humiliation, you have to figure out what your pillars are. And your pillars are like your core personality identifiers. Like, what do you feel makes you you? That could be your intelligence, that could be your physical appearance, that could be, uh, certain talents that you have. And if you mess with those certain core pillars, that is kind of going a step too far in the humiliation. Because, like, if somebody really, really values their intelligence, and intelligence is one of their key, like, self identifying traits, and you call them, like, a stupid, like, worthless pig, and the whole humiliation scene revolves around like proving to them the fact that they're actually stupid, like that's going to have very negative repercussions, like psychologically speaking, because of how much work you've done to sort of knock over how that person feels about themselves in a very important area. And the things that aren't pillars, those sort of outer traits that aren't as important, those are the things that are like safe to play with in humiliation. But because they're like there can be so much specificity in like what is and is not okay to play with and with what degree, that is where check-ins are super important, because like you can say, okay, like you can mess around with this rule, but if you're constantly messing with the same rule over and over and over again every single day and almost like turning it into a personal insult, like even if that's okay, the repetition, the volume, the intensity can make something that used to be okay into something that's not okay. Does that make sense? So yeah, definitely the check-ins are really, really important. Okay. How should the dom be able to tell the sub slash brat that they are burnt out and can't dom? By the way, love your stuff. I think there's a couple ways you can go about it. Let me think about that for a second. Let's see. How should you be able to tell the sub slash brat that they are burnt out and can't? Okay, so it's like the dom telling the brat that they can't dom anymore. I would say there's a few ways that you can do that. The first and easiest way, obviously, is just good old fashioned plain English communication. I am a really big advocate for this. I don't think that, like, a lot of people say that, oh, ruins the mood, ruins the role play, whatever. I think especially if you're dealing with like a 24/7 dynamic, you live with your partner, you had a pre-existing vanilla relationship. I think you absolutely should be able to communicate in just like plain language that like, hey, I can't do this tonight. And just have that be respected. I find like I know one of the things that some people find kind of upsetting about bratting or something they don't like about brats is they feel like disrespected a lot. And they feel like if they can't dom constantly, then this like sub or the brat like won't respect them. And they feel like they have to work really hard to like maintain that respect basically. So if you feel like you can't just directly come out and say like, "Hey, I can't do this tonight," and you know, I understand if that's not the case, but I would encourage being able to get to a place where you can just say that and not have it like hurt how the other person like doesn't have their perception of you damaged or something. I would say that you can also um like I'm trying to think of like other ways you can communicate this without having to like necessarily directly say it if you're trying to like get around like hurting the role play aspect of the relationship. Um we also said like burnt out. So I feel like part of it is like it's not just like, oh, I don't feel like it tonight. It feels like maybe that might be a little bit like longer term, like needing more of an extended break instead of just like, oh, hey, not right now, not immediately. If that's the case, um, if it's like a one night thing where just like you don't want to do it right now, um, I don't know, like leaving a note on your office door that says like the dom is out, and then just like locking yourself in your office to have like a night just to yourself is like probably like you can do things like that. If that's in the appropriate in the context of your relationship style. But yeah. Um, See, it's like hard. I think a lot of times, like brats do take it personally. If you say you can't play with them, they're like, "What did I do wrong? Is because I'm a brat? Is because you hate brats?" And it's like, no, I'm just like tired. I just can't. I just can't do that tonight. It's not like a you thing. It's a me thing. That is hard. That is a hard question. So I had to take a moment to sort of think about it a little bit. But yeah. I mean, I really do think the best way to do it is just to be able to say like, "Hey, am I really feeling tonight? I still really." I would make it sort of like typical good communication practices where you're like saying what you need to say, but you're making sure you say it in a delicate manner. So instead of just being like, I can't right now, stop bothering me. You'd be like, I really love being able to play with you. I super appreciate you want to do something with me tonight, but I'm not feeling it right now. We can do something another time. Or just like specify like what it is you're feeling and then what you want from them. Like, do you want to be left alone? Are you willing to do other things? Do you want to watch a movie? Do you want to do something that's non BDSM related? Do you want to cook dinner together? And I feel like one important part of having a healthy dynamic with a brat is having a brat that knows when to put the brat away. Because again, we sort of went back to that example of the person where the constant like breaking of the rules all the time seems really exhausting and like this makes them kind of afraid. And I think you have to, in order to have a healthy relationship, like you have to know like when to be able to pull that back because it can be so damaging for a dom psyche sometimes to like be so constantly rebelled against, unless you're like I don't know the world's most like devoted ultimate brat tamer or something. But yeah, if you don't really, if it's just like a temporary thing where like maybe doing something that's in the role play of the relationship like would be okay. I would probably like I don't know. What do parents do when like their kids are being really annoying and they don't want to like entertain their kids and they're like trying to read a book or cook dinner or whatever? I just be like, no, not right now. Go play with your coloring book. No, not right now. Like, just like, you know, I don't know. That's like hard. I don't know how to do it. Like, cause I'm not a brat tamer and I'm not a brat. So if anyone has like ideas in sort of the chat about like what you guys do for your brat relationship to communicate stuff like this, I'm just like having trouble off of the top of my head, like finding out from the dom side how to communicate that while like staying in a role play space that doesn't like come off as just like mean. So or maybe that's fine. I don't know. Maybe me being mean is okay. Don't tell me how to have your relationship, or don't let me tell you how to have your relationship. Rather, let me know. How much did your chair cost? And it is comfortable. I like my chair. I got it on sale at PAX like 3 years ago, so I don't remember how much it was. But they manufacture these locally. It's Arc Racing. They're very popular amongst the Twitch crowd. But I like it. It's comfortable. Let's see. Um. There we go. Sorry, I think I accidentally blocked the wrong person. I'm sorry. I unblocked the other person. Um, okay, I thought I saw a question. Where did it go? Where did it go? I have a question. I know everyone here probably knows what collaring is, but does it sort of mean like you're engaged? Question mark. Um, I have a whole video. I have multiple videos where I've talked about collaring and collaring ceremonies and stuff like that. Long answer short is collaring can mean literally anything. Collaring can go along with vanilla marriage. It is separate. Basically, what it means is you have like a long term commitment to a power exchange relationship of some kind. That's basically what it is. Or like me, you can wear collars and it's just like a fashion thing, just for the aesthetic, and that's also fine. Would talking too much, maybe to the point of being told to be quiet or interrupting, be considered to be a brat? It can be, but again, like any behavior that you do as a brat has to be like consensual and negotiated for. If you are just like constantly talking and then until people tell you to be quiet, like in a group, or you're interrupting people when they don't want to be interrupted and you haven't negotiated for that, then like that's just being rude. Like it's not being a brat, it's being rude. But yeah, if it's negotiated for, that totally could be a brat behavior. Fairy Queen added, as someone who is both collared and engaged, congratulations, by the way, but by/to the same person, they felt very different in my personal experience. Yeah, definitely for some people they overlap, and for other people they feel very, very different, for sure. Okay, so so someone who's like older and like newer to the scene, nervous about going to swingers events. You know what? I really wouldn't be that worried. Everywhere I've been, the swinger community, and honestly, even the BDSM community itself tends to skew a little bit older. So I wouldn't be worried. Like, it's not going to be nothing but like hot 20-year-olds, you know? It's going to be people in their 40s, 50s, and so on. And it's, um, it's not going to be all just like super perfect people that are way hotter than you or better than you or anything else. Like it's gonna be like normal people. Like the best example I can give is like when I went to Kink Fest, for example, which is not a swingers event, but you know, the closest example I have is like you literally see every type of person there. You see like 18-year-olds with like shaved heads and tattoos, and you see people in their 50s that are, you know, size 16, haven't worked out in like 10 years, had 4 kids. So, it's going to be a mix of like every different type of person, and like your body is okay. Like, I understand being nervous, but ultimately your body's going to be okay. And I would um be shocked if you were like the only person older than their 20s. Recently met another little, and like each other romantically. Want to know any tips on how two subs could have a successful relationship? We definitely can. I think it depends on one, how important BDSM is to you. Two, if any of you have any switch tendencies, and three, if you are like willing to see other partners besides each other. I think it's totally possible for two subs, two DOMs, two switches, two whatevers to have a relationship together. But if you need to have BDSM and be dominated in order to be happy in a romantic relationship, then it's going to be very hard for two subs, not two switches, to have that need fulfilled for both of you. So, what I find is typically more advisable, if this is like possible and it feels okay for both of you, is to have other play relationships. They don't have to be romantic relationships, they don't have to be sexual relationships, but having other play relationships where you both can get your BDSM needs met, so that isn't like so like pressing in your romantic relationship, because you can still like totally with littles as well. I think there's a lot of like cooperative play that you can do as littles, lots of side by side scenes, lots of different dynamics you can have like between two littles, that I think it makes it very very possible. I think it's harder when it's like two service submissives, like for example, to have a relationship together, but like two littles I think is totally possible. But I think if you're looking for like DS on top of that, then like having outside play relationships, or if you want somebody to also be a daddy, having outside play relationships, like that's probably going to make it more sustainable. But as I have not had a relationship romantically with another submissive person like exclusively, then I can't really give any advice about how to do a successful relationship based on that, because that isn't something I have experienced. But if anyone has, feel free to share. I would love to know if anyone out there has figured out how to make that successful. Oh, okay. Okay, there was a second part to this. I had to scroll down like 2 inches. I would have seen it. Side note: we both have daddies and are in open relationships. Oh yeah, then totally. I don't think there's any reason that should be a problem. Um, yeah, totally. Sounds like that should work just fine. I think that can be really really cute. So I wish you the best of luck. Totally. Would coconut rope be a good punishment for a brat or wool if you have sensitive skin? Yeah, totally. I think again, like anything can be a punishment. Like, listen, okay, everyone, listen. Anything can be a punishment. Doing taxes can be a punishment. Coconut rope can be a punishment. Having to eat a whole banana can be a punishment. Having to put your clothes on in the dark can be a punishment. Like anything can be a punishment if it is punishing to your partner. If it is something that is in the boundaries of their limits but is not something they find enjoyable or fulfilling, it can be a punishment. How effective it is can vary. How motivating it is can vary. But ultimately, you can't really know until you try it, right? So, yeah, anything's possible. Personally, I fucking love coconut rope, and that would never be a punishment for me. But yeah, for other, and I'm also not a brat, so this question isn't really for me. But yeah, definitely, you can use pretty much anything you want as a punishment if you go about it thoughtfully. I am the one that likes the idea of sleep sacks. How do you find a good quality one? I think you go to a manufacturer that has like a good reputation for making sleep sacks. Does Mr. S Leather make one? Let me check. I want to say they do, Mr. S Leather, because I don't want to recommend they make one and have that like not be a thing, right? Sleep sleep sack. Yes. Yeah, I mean, Mr. S Leather makes a sleep sack, so if you want to get something that's good quality, go there. I'm sure you can find them on Etsy too. Um, but in that case, like I don't recommend ordering something from like fucking Ukraine or wherever. I don't recommend something that's like from way in a, just, I personally, when I'm on Etsy, I never order anything that comes from the Ukraine or Russia because it's always a shipping nightmare. It's never what it says it is. Like it's just never a good time. But if it's outside of those places and you're comfortable with like waiting, you don't want it immediately, you're okay if it has to go through customs, etc. Then yeah, you have way more options if you're on Etsy too. But read the reviews. Look on FetLife. I know if you're looking for anything bondage related, and you ask somebody like, "Hey, recommendations for a sleep sack," in a group that's about sleep sacking and extreme bondage, like people are gonna have opinions and recommendations. But my only experience with a sleep sack, well, two actually, Mistress Leather, and then I tried one when I was in a BDSM dungeon in London that I rented, and that was like a custom made sleep sack from like a local leather worker. Like that wasn't anything that you could get on Etsy or anywhere. That was very custom, and that was very very high quality. Yeah, and also like if you can go to like in person like vendor fairs, anything like that, that can also be a good way to like meet people locally that make stuff. And I'm not sure how complicated it is to make a sleep sack, but if you find a local leather worker that's in the kink community, they can probably figure it out if they are used to working with garment leather, at least. My partner and I are both very bratty. But what I find funny is that my brattiness has actually looped back around and helped me to be a better top for her. I'm a switch and she's a sub, which is very fun. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, bratting can definitely have unexpected benefits to it, and I totally think that bratty tops are a thing. I think we sort of generally speak about bratting as like a bottom thing, but I think if you're a top, you can also be a brat. I just think we tend to use different language for it though. So a sleep sack is like generally like a full body encasement, typically made out of leather that typically involves like zippers and straps to give a sense of like total coverage and bondage, basically. I don't know if that's like actually a fully encompassing, like fully complete definition, but that's kind of what came to my head. Bandit question: does Bandit want a treat? I think Bandit wants a treat. I don't know. I'll ask her. Bandita, sweetheart, would you like a treat? Want a treat? We look very sleepy. We look very sleepy. Oh my goodness. Look at that stretch. Oh my goodness, do you have a bed? You want to say hello to people? I know you are very sleepy. People have not seen you in so long, my love. This is my dog, and I love her. Hi, honey. Oh, sweetheart. I know you're sleepy. Oh, you can stay on my lap. That's okay. I know. It's a little awkward. You can be up here, though. Sweet girl. Mm. For orientation, I recommend a map and a compass. Oh, that's perfect. We love the meme answers here. Those are great. That's so funny. Oh, we got a professional clown? Okay. You have full license to say anything you want. Ask them to do a flip. Oh, we love the ideas here. We love the ideas. Thank you guys. These are great. I mean, there's like literally like 2 different places in my city where you can do circus training. So circuses are alive and well. Like clowning isn't something I see a lot of, but like aerial arts for sure, acrobatics, contortion, that kind of thing. Totally still a thing. I think one of them has a clowning program. You get your degree in clownery, clowning around. I'm a lesbian. What does daddy use for? What is a leather dyke? Oh, we're gonna go into some good old fashioned leather history here. So I feel like it's best to learn this maybe from the horse's mouth because there are many wonderful, especially older leather women and leather dykes that have a really fun way of telling their own history and talking about this stuff. But use of terms like daddy and boy have like been around, especially in like lesbian leather spaces for a really, really long time, like playing around with like gender expectations and roles and masculinity is very, very much a thing. Leather dyke is just another term for like the lesbian leather community. I tend to hear the term leather dyke more than like leather woman because leather woman, the reason why there's a separation is like leather woman is also used in like heterosexual leather spaces where you can be a leather woman and be like heterosexual, and so like leather dyke typically has like more direct connotations of being lesbian as opposed to being leather and straight at the same time, you know. How do you feel about those that get shamed for being in DDoG relationships? I think that it's bullshit because, especially if it's coming from vanilla people, they're like, DDoG is pedophilia, is disgusting. It's like, okay, then like, please tell me why like choke me daddy is a meme, okay? Because it sure seems like a lot of y'all have kinks that you're trying to hide with jokes and thinking it's funny and cringe. I just feel like it's really silly that people get shamed for being in any sort of consensual adult relationship. Um, it's not productive, you know. Goodness, hi honey, hi my sweetie girl, hi my sweetie girl. How do we feel about people getting shamed for who they are? We don't like it, do we? Mana thinks that everyone should be allowed to be who they are. That's her opinion. I just find it very fascinating that we, like, there is a video, I don't remember what it was. I was watching a video on YouTube recently where I think the video was talking about maps, like the minor attracted person thing that happened on Tumblr a while ago. And somebody brought up, like, oh, we talked about maps. You should talk about DDLG because it's basically like pedophilia in disguise. And it's like, okay, why is everyone like so revolted by like DDLG? But then like, meanwhile, people feel perfectly fine like making memes about like, ooh, daddy, yes, ooh, daddy, that, like, daddy touched me there, daddy choked me. I'm like, Lord, just help me, please, with these people. The hypocrisy is too much. Hypocrisy is too damn high. That's what it is. Why is being a brat such a popular thing? Like everywhere I look, it's brats. Um, why is bratting so popular? I think that bratting is popular in part because it is something that makes for easy role play where I think like it allows you to more easily accept like being into BDSM, I think. Cuz if you're being like silly and funny about it and you're like fighting back, I think like psychologically it's easier to process than just like getting at it directly, I suppose. That's my guess. I just think a lot of people like being sassy and silly and funny, and I think that kind of like teasing is very common as like human mating behavior basically. Um does it make sense? So it makes sense of a crossover into BDSM, I think. I think trends kind of come and go though. I think when we're talking about the community, there's always going to be trends, right? Sometimes bratting is really popular. Sometimes it's little. Sometimes it's slave. Sometimes it's service. And it always just, you know, cyclical. Always comes and goes. Sweetheart. Hi, are we cozy? Cozy. Mm. Ooh, so that's complicated. Based on some remarks my daddy made when I saw him last week about his relationship with his current primary, about it wearing him down to a point where he was really questioning if he wants to pull away fully from kink slash poly, and I'm scared the relationship issues with the primary might end up spelling the end of my relationship with him. That's really hard. So there's a book I read recently that's called the Polyamory Breakup Book. I want to say it's by Kathy Labriola. I don't know if that's that author. I may be thinking of a different book, but the polyamory breakup book. It's definitely worth recommending. Unfortunately, there is this domino effect that can happen where some people get so exhausted from polyamory that when they choose to leave a poly relationship, especially a primary one, either one, their secondary relationships can't take the strain of all of those additional needs from now basically kind of becoming the primary partner by default, or the person decides to kind of say fuck it and like blows up all their relationships at the same time. Um, I always think whenever you can do direct communication, that is the best path forward. But I think in this scenario, if like emotions are really high and there's like sort of that fragility there, I don't know how you could phrase sort of a question about this in a way that's not like potentially would make matters worse. Like, and I don't know how you could say like, "Hey, are you gonna break up with me if you leave this person?" Like, I don't know how to say that in a way that wouldn't like add additional pressure, or make it feel like maybe he doesn't have as much of a choice as he really does. It's complicated though. Like, yeah, it can absolutely be a thing that's happening, but it could also just be that one relationship, right? Like maybe that one relationship is too much, or maybe they're not on the same page about like kink or poly, or maybe that relationship it takes too much space from other relationships. So there could be a ton of other factors going on. But I think if you can be there for that partner and you can be there for um, them if they need support and someone to talk to, um, then you'll be more likely to sort of get the information that you need to make decisions about what you want from that relationship. What are you doing, honey? What are you doing? Hmm. Yes, Bandit. Yes, she did a very tiny sneeze. Very tiny sneeze. Very tiny sneezy girl. Yes. Oh, we're to the bottom of the chat. Okay. Fuck. Okay. We're gonna find where it was. We're gonna find my place. Okay. Oh, shit, where it was. I hate when this happens. Okay. Well, we have like 20 minutes left anyway, so I guess if I miss something, because like YouTube does this thing where if the chat goes on for too long, if I'm not scrolling through it fast enough, it'll just like yeet me to the bottom of the chat. And then if I try to scroll back up, I'll like miss the top, like most recent messages. So if I missed your question, you got like 20 more minutes to answer, ask it again. So here we go. Being unable to dom a brat at any given point, perhaps discussing that ahead of time, making an in-roll way of communicating that in a more coded way in the moment when necessary. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It's sort of hard when you're already in the moment of like, okay, now I'm at a point where I need to be able to communicate this. I didn't plan ahead. But yeah, I think anytime you have the opportunity to pre-plan something and anticipate that, because it's gonna happen, right? No matter how hot and amazing and wonderful your relationship seems right now at this exact moment, like there is going to be times where for outside reasons, stress, so on and so forth, you're going to want to take a break. And so having that kind of code word in place like James suggested is a really good thing to do. And that could be anything, right? You could say, not right now, little one. You could say maybe later. You could say daddy doesn't have time right now. You can make that code phrase whatever it is you want it to be. But pre planning will always help your future self out, even if you don't think you need it. So keep that in mind, I guess, maybe for the future, even if it doesn't help your immediate self. Not a brat myself, but my ex spouse was a massive brat. One time, while her dom was at work, she sewed all of his socks closed and put them back so he wouldn't realize until it was too late. Oh my god. If you ever want an example of like bratting gone too far, that feels like the poster example of like bratting that's gone too far. I think it would be different if you like as a joke, I don't know, sewed a pair of socks closed. Like just to be like, haha, look what I did. I sewed socks closed. Isn't it funny? When you literally do like like all of the socks, that seems a little excessive. That seems like more malicious, I think, than like bratting. Cause like I don't know. Cause like what if you're rushing out the door in the morning and you try to put your socks on, but you can't because your fucking person has decided to sew all of your socks closed. Like what? That seems a little too far for me. That seems like a bit too much, Bandit. And that's why we have to have clear boundaries around our bratting so we don't do that instead. Yeah, exactly, James. I find it can be a lot easier to discuss these possibilities outside the moment when they're most urgent in a way that is less likely to hurt both people and be more even keeled emotionally. Exactly, exactly. That is why regular communication and check ins are so important. Hey, Evie, happy I caught your stream. I love being a brat. Thank you so much, Kim. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, Autumn, I feel you on this. I feel you on this. This isn't even a question, just a gripe about how there being literally no public venues or dungeons in my entire state, and I'm not trying to go to some 65-year-old man's on FetLife's home dungeon party. Oh my god, I feel you. We literally, I'm so jealous. Like in LA, they're literally building their fourth dungeon right now. And currently, we have one dungeon that is still only operating virtual events, and like in the virtual event they're operating is like members only munches on Zoom. I'm sorry, I am not paying $30 a month or whatever the fuck it is just to go to virtual munches, which I am my brain like Zoom is great. Having that as an option is great. Socializing over Zoom, personally, for the kind of introvert I am, I cannot think of something more hellish to do with my free time than stare at my computer and talk to strangers. Like, if I'm gonna do that, like, I would rather spend my money and time taking classes, learning things, talking to people one on one. Like, I don't wanna do Zoom calls. I'm so sorry. And so, like, I literally, the last time we had a class on like rope bondage uplines in our community was like 2017 or something. Like, it's so hard to find certain types of education here. It's super hard to even find like parties. Like, the first in person munch we've had in like almost 2 years is, I think, this weekend. And 90 people RSVP'd, and they're gonna do social distancing outside for this. Like, they require you to be vaccinated, but they're also mandating social distancing. So I'm like, are they gonna have a giant circle that's 90 people strong? That's all people are 6 feet apart from each other? Like, how, like, what is the math for that, like, circumference of that circle? You know, how big is that circle all the way around? Or are they gonna break it up into smaller groups? I don't know what they're gonna do, but yeah, it's very, very frustrating. And like, I'm glad I have a dungeon, but it's not doing jack shit. So I very much understand where you're at. It's literally like, that's like the only in-person munch we've had. There's no events happening at the only dungeon that's still around that hasn't closed down. Like, what the fuck, man? That's not fair. Like, I know, and it's so frustrating because here, like, I know that a fourth of the people in the fucking community are tech workers that telecommute and make 6 figures a year. Like, I know that this community has a lot of money in it. I know they have a lot of free time. I know they don't have kids. Like, there's no reason why there shouldn't be any, like, ability to organize something. Like, I don't know if they're just playing it really, really safe, or if they don't want to organize something because there's not, like, the will to do it. I'm not sure what's going on there. It's very strange, but they just, like, haven't done anything. And it's like, listen, I know people that live in Georgia that have been having BDSM parties every weekend for like 4 months now, like for 5 months. Like, maybe we could do one in-person socially distanced party, members only, for like 10 people. Maybe we could do that and it wouldn't be the end of the world, as long as we make sure everyone's vaccinated and we do all the other things we're supposed to do, right? Because it's legal, it's allowed. It's not a like government guidelines thing or like my local health department thing or anything like that. It's just like, nope, nothing's open, nothing's happening, doesn't matter, doesn't matter. Have you ever played Vampire the Masquerade? I have, actually. I was very excited for the next Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines that's supposed to come out, but it has been lost to development hell, so I'm not sure if it's ever going to get released at this point, sadly. Yeah, service DOMs are totally a thing for sure. Okay, we got 10 minutes left, so last chance to ask your question. If you have any questions left, any follow ups, anything like that, I will do my best to answer all the remaining questions, but I cannot make any promises. I'm engaged to my boyfriend and I'm in a power exchange relationship with him. Should I wear a collar at my wedding? That's like totally a personal thing for you. If it was me, I probably wouldn't wear a collar to my wedding. Like, what I've always pictured in my head is that I would do like the regular wedding first and then do like the collaring ceremony after that, like if they were going to be separate events. But like if you want to wear a collar to your wedding and like you're okay with that questions from your family and having that be in all your wedding photos, like you can if you want to, but I don't I think most people tend to do the wedding first and then the collaring ceremony second if they're going to have the wedding be like a vanilla like family thing, but then it also depends on like what you're using for a collar at the same time and like how obvious it is, you know? Mm, okay, okay. Just two parts here. Okay, so this is related to like service doms. My daddy is a service dom for masochist because he doesn't typically seek them out, but three of his former, one actually still a partners were all masochists ranging from a 5 to a 9 on the pain scale. Yeah, totally. Yeah, service dom's totally a thing. Thanks for the example. We appreciate it. Evie, thank you for the Bratty top recognition. You're welcome. It is, you know what? I am here to represent the underrepresented. That is my job. Uh, I'm in a brat group on Facebook and we all theorize daddy's just the ultimate brats. I mean, you're not gonna find me arguing with that. I can see the connection. Do you have any experience with mummification, like with plastic wrap and tape? Yes, I do. I quite like doing mummification with plastic wrap. It has been a while since I've done it, TBH, but it is quite fun. Question. How do you tell a partner you don't have the energy to brat anymore? Maybe you'll revisit it in the future, but there's a lot going outside the dynamic you need to focus on. But without making them think it's because they aren't attractive anymore. I'm just gonna seem really obvious. I feel like you kind of already answered your own question, which is basically just tell it like it is and say, I guess I would say something like, um, I really enjoyed the bratting part of our dynamic. We've had a lot of really amazing scenes together. Sort of thinking on how I've been doing with like my own physical health and my energy. I think I need to take sort of a break from bratting for right now. I'd love to revisit it again in the future. I definitely don't want to give up on it, but I think just for the health of our relationship and for my own like health and well-being, it's something we need to take a break from. It's absolutely not because I'm not attracted to you anymore, because I don't want to be in a relationship or play with you anymore. I just think that this um, one thing right now like might be doing more harm than good, and I'm really looking forward to like other ways that like we can play together and like make our relationship stronger. Like that is what I would say. Like I would try to make it as like positive as possible, not very dramatic, but still like clear and to the point, and being honest about like what you want and what your intentions are. And I think if I heard someone say that to me, I would definitely be able to receive that. But different people are going to need different levels of reassurances that like you still like them and that you want to really want to do it again in the future and all that. Are we getting restless, honey? We like to get down. Okay. We will get a treat after the live stream. How do we think about this? Okay. It got very dark. I don't know how that happened. There we go. That's better. Bandita is actually a girl. She's not a boy. She's a girl. I know that Bandit is kind of a masculine name. I couldn't pick it, but I like to call her Bandit still because she is the bandit of my heart because she steals everyone's love. That is why I decided she's called Bandit. Also, weekly reminder Stephanie Meyer's a Mormon. Yes. It explains so much. I would say as someone who bratted to a certain extent in my last relationship, I would sometimes do it when I needed my partner to be more dominant in a situation. It wasn't the right way to handle it, but I did it because I didn't know how to ask for what I needed. Yeah, totally. I think people can use bratting in a lot of different scenarios. And certainly can definitely be a way of like, it's almost like echolocation, I think, sometimes for power exchange, where like the bratting is like you're trying to search out and like draw in that dominance. And in some scenarios, it's totally appropriate. And other times, it's like, this is the skill that I have. And I know it's not the best, but it's what I've got, you know? Whoa. Well, the one third of people, what? One third of American adults don't have no object permanence? Wait, like literally? Or just like, is that hyperbolic? Is this like scientifically true? If so, that is a big deal. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, Luna the Fox Girl. Hopefully we'll see you again soon. I feel this conference video calls are the worst. Yeah, it's not a substitute at all. Yeah, 90 people. I know, right? It's like I know 90 people are not going to show up for that munch because people are going to be like, I don't want to go around 90 people. What the fuck? But it's going to happen. Oh, we have a super chat from Great Dogs. They say bratting is play equal okay. Bratting is a personality trait, not so much. Keep up the good work. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think sort of in the sense that like I don't know if anybody would use bratting as a personality trait, but I think like if you mean like bratting as a substitute for negotiation and saying that you can't help but bratting because it's just who you are is like you gotta, whenever it comes to any kind of BDSM dynamic, you gotta know when to rein it in. You gotta know when to have it out and when to not have it out. And if you're playing with people where like, you know, if you start to do like little space stuff or pet play stuff in inappropriate places, you can't just say, oh, it's my personality and like expect people to be okay with that because like what you're actually doing is violating their consent, you know? I think the reason why it's so many people at this upcoming munch is literally because this is the only in-person munch we've had in like almost 2 years. So I think that's why there's so many people RSVP'd to it, but I'm not going to it. It's got 90 people at it. No ma'am, no sir. No mix, not happening. I will be very interested to hear what people that go to it have to say for how it's organized. I think it's also supposed to rain tomorrow as well, which is like literally the first day we've had rain. It rained yesterday, I think yesterday night, but like the first actual day of rain, like a day of rain in I don't know, 3 months. So bad timing, but can't always be helped, I suppose. Excuse me. My local kink community is super predatory, also super saturated with pro doms and doms. I'm starting to wonder if the abusive community dynamic is a marketing tactic. Um, I don't know. I mean, I guess I wouldn't underestimate people's ability to do bullshit as a marketing tactic because capitalism. I hope that's not the case though. Okay, I'm gonna do one more question, and I think we're gonna be done for tonight. Thank you all so much for all your wonderful questions, though. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. It's so hard trying to find a mill sub. Where do I go to find one? 20,000 question marks. You go to FetLife, find local events, meet people in person, meet people in munches, meet people in local Discord chats. If anything, I think you probably have the advantage if you're like, I don't know what gender you are, but if you're like a female person that's a dom or a top and you want to find a male submissive, trust me, there are about a million male submissives that are all desperately waiting for a female dom to look their way. So most likely the ball is actually in your court and you don't even realize it yet. So yeah. Have you ever been to a munch with a different theme, like self-care day at a spa day, or just anything other than eating and drinking? I think it would be nice to host something like that. I really wanted to do, there was a day spa that you can rent out. That if you rented it, it could be like any gender, like mixed gender, whatever. And you could rent it out and you could have like a self-care day like at the spa. And it was like one of those spas that has like steam rooms, saunas, cold pools, warm pools, like all that stuff, meditation room. They unfortunately closed down because of COVID. I haven't been to a munch that has like a different theme besides eating and drinking. Other than like I guess like playing like board games and stuff, but even then it tends to be in a place where like eating and drinking is happening. But I love that idea. I would love to do I've done like quieter like self-care days with like a smaller group of people, but never anything that's like a public munch where like random people could show up, you know? Okay. Well, that's everything for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, asking questions and answering questions and just all around having a good time. I love having you all here. We will be streaming next Friday at 6 p.m. I am also going to be posting for a Friday night, well, not a Friday night, a movie night for patrons. I found a way to get a bunch of like more obscure BDSM movies that haven't had like DVD releases in America. And I'm very excited. I got like a pretty good lineup, I think, of movies for us to try out over there. So like for the next like 3 months or so, we're gonna have like movie nights at least for the like. I don't know if we're gonna do them. I'm either gonna do like twice a month for a little while or just like once a month. I haven't really settled on what we're gonna do yet. Yeah. Anyways, sorry. That's what's going on. I hope you all are having an amazing start to your weekend. Stay safe, and I will talk to you all again soon. Bye.